Let's get ready to RPG!
RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG! RPG!
Hello, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Welcome to the Night's Last Call. My name is Derek Melenda, and we are here on a special holiday stream because of you. We had a tip goal or a stream chat goal, a super chat goal last week or whatever, $75. If we could get to that before Thanksgiving, I would go ahead and go live. Now, there's no real plan for tonight, so I don't know what we're going to get into. A lot of it's going to basically be what I'm expecting to be a fairly small crowd. I think we'll probably have 20 people, maybe 25. So just a good opportunity for us to kind of hang out. So it may be a shorter stream, famous last words, but I mostly just wanted to kind of stop in and just do a super duper casual hangout stream. We got some more nasty weather here on the way. We tried, of course, very famously last week to go live during a snowstorm, and the other ideas has the snow had other ideas, but we're due for another wallop in here. Heavy lake effect snow, total accumulation between 6 and 22 inches, winds gusting as high as 40 miles per hour, especially near the lakeshore, and I am near the lakeshore, so. Good times. We'll see. So, if the stream ends early, it's possibly because we get taken out, but we'll see. Mark says, Derek, the One Ring, the free League game, is now available to play on D&D Beyond as a download or to buy. Good to see these games getting a 5e treatment. Well, Mark, so the One Ring RPG has had a 5e treatment for many, many, many years. It was originally released as, in the first edition, as Adventures in Middle-earth. Adventures in Middle-earth. And this was a 5e game. This came out from Cubicle 7. And then when Free League took over the license and they released the One Ring, they also released Lord of the Rings role-playing game. And these are basically the same game. Obviously, one uses 5e and one uses kind of a different system, but a lot of the structure of these two books is very the same. And so this has been a 5e book since this came out. So in actuality, since this came out, I think early last year. Anyways, so they've been producing 5e content for Middle-earth for a long time. Now, it being on D&D Beyond is certainly new. But, Free League's just trying to get their name out there and whatever. But, that is a development. So I wonder if, again, it doesn't surprise me that, D&D Beyond is looking to be the hub, right? It's looking to be the source for all things role-playing games. And by all things role-playing games, they mean all things 5e. So if you're playing 5e D&D, they want you to be going through them, essentially. They are the one true source. It probably, gives them control, gives them information, lets them, capture more market share. And from Free League's perspective, the audience the number of people who probably play D&D 5e and who love Lord of the Rings, right? They love it. They're really excited about War of the Rohirrim opening next week or 2 weeks. They've seen all the movies, they've seen the extended edition. They love Lord of the Rings and they love D&D, and they have no idea that this book exists, right? So it is kind of crazy that is, probably the truth, that is what's going on there. In any case, London just finished the War of Immortals VOD. It was fun to talk about Pathfinder 2 again. I guess there's some other stuff I didn't get into. I guess there's mythic monsters. There's this maybe debate about mythic saves. So I did miss some of that drama. I think the main contention point between me and the rule set is I still don't see really the value in using a mythic point to roll of one of only a handful of skills with mythic proficiency when you can just re-roll with mythic proficiency. Unless you really, really, really need to pass it and you're going to spend the mythic proficiency point and then re-roll it with another mythic proficiency point. But that's like two of your 3 points. It seems kind of crazy. The whole thing that's being given is like, oh, it allows you to do checks that you're gatekeeped for from, proficiency gating. Again, I've really only experienced those with open locks or and disabled device traps. So that's it. Thanksgiving with the Knights and homemade pork tacos. Very traditional. However you give thanks, Dr. Waits, is in your own way is fine by me. What's up, Gonzo? Yes, well, we are here. We are here. And that is a 30-month resub message from the one, the only, the pawn no longer, rocking his gold orange loyalty badge for over 2 years of supporting the adventure. Thank you, Mr. Damian Williams. The one source for 5e until Hasbro decides it's not growing enough and deletes everything with no recourse for people who bought stuff. And, well, Mr. Williams, I mean, I am not a Luddite. I liked technology, but the bookshelf behind you should tell you, and my rants, frequent rants, I think one of the most famous rants of this entire channel is when I ranted about Demiplane and Nexus and proprietary document types. I don't love PDFs, but at least when I own a PDF, I own it. And all these people who are just going all in on these digital only books that are being held in the cloud and are accessible through this people, oh boy, like it's too much span of control, and it's horrible. I was thinking about this, I think maybe it was yesterday, and I thought it was a really great point, which again, I don't really watch movies anymore, but when Netflix was first becoming a thing, I was really excited about it because I was like, oh, cool, I'll pay a little bit of money per month. And when Netflix streaming became a thing, I was like, I'll pay a little bit of money per month, and then I can just go watch like any movie ever. That's great. And then at some point, probably after I canceled Netflix, right, they started doing this thing where they're like curating a list, they're removing movies. And it started to occur to me that there may be movies out there that you can't buy anymore. They don't make it in a print media. And if one of the Hulus or Netflixes or whoever decides not to publish it, or keep it available on their source, what are you supposed to do if you want to watch that movie? And it kind of made me like a little nervous, like, I don't know what, nothing super controversial, but like, what if I want to watch Conan the Barbarian? And I have it on VHS. God knows if I have or I have it on DVD, but I don't even have a DVD player, right? So it's like, okay, can you go get it on Blu-ray? Maybe, but what if I can't in 5 years? And what if Netflix and Hulu and whoever doesn't stream it? So then it's like, are you just shit out of luck? And I don't know. It's kind of scary in that respect. Greetings, Mr. Rawlings. Mr. Rawlings, big supporter of our Slug Blaster stream. And then it looks like, surprise, surprise, Quinn's Quest did a thing on Slug Blaster. So I'm interested to see how that video does. Or if people are still going to be like, oh, wow, this kind of semi-famous internet person's talking about this game, and I'm kind of getting really interested in it. Let me do a search for it. Oh, man, there's not that many videos about that, except this one. Oh, but it's 3 hours long. Skip. All right, Pathfinder. Well, enjoy your Thanksgiving with your family. That's definitely the way to do it. All right, London. We'll take care. Is our next stream number 256, a.k.a. 8-Bit, a.k.a. Fabulous Stream with Bob? No comment. I have to talk to Bob. I do know that Bob wants to do a second look on Torchbearer. He didn't really care about Torchbearer before, but now apparently he's going to be playing in one of the Torchbearer games that I'm going to be running on the Patreon. And so now he's like, I need to learn how to play and I learn how to make a character. So I do know that is that is something that Bob has expressed. Happy Thanksgiving, Kalana. Will Netters. Hello, hello. Good night, good night, good night. Something fortune trait. I mean, the thing is, like, I guess if you did have access to a reroll, like if you had if you had like True Strike or whatever they call it now, Sure Strike, then doing it with Mythic Proficiency would give you 2 rolls of Mythic Proficiency for one spell, one thing. I mean, there are some weird situations, but like, no, because Sure Strike doesn't work for skills. It works for attack rolls. I don't know. I find that whole thing a little bit there. Mythic loses me at having characters who are special. Like, what are we even doing here? I assume you're being sarcastic here, London. Or are you saying, no, I want to have characters that are not remarkable? Happy Thanksgiving to you, Shadram, as well. Also rocking their orange loyalty badge. Love to see it. Legendary moments: Ryutama, Demiplane, and Chubos. Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, obviously, you need to know your Knights of Last Call lore. So, okay, what was the most legendary moment? And I might jinx myself. So let's see, Ryutama, Demiplane, Rant, Chubos, or I mean, this one might be a little bit biased, but we'll see what it says here. Was it the Ryutama, Demiplane, Chubos, or was it the Wheel of Pain TPK? Let's see what people say. Oh, the Marvel rant was really good. Oh shit, damn, I forgot about that one. Wasn't the Marvel rant the Demiplane rant? Yeah, okay. I'm including the Marvel rant in the Demiplane rant, Damien. That was part of the Demiplane rant. Because the only way that you could get the Marvel book was either through Amazon or through Demiplane, and it didn't work on Amazon because it was designed for, it wasn't put into an proper EPUB format. It was like they were trying to make it a PDF in EPUB, and it just couldn't handle it. It was terrible. Streamers don't care about New Zealand, and there's so many movies we can't see here because nobody will pay for the streaming rights. Well, that's why we have VPNs, right, Chandra? I know you're not an anime guy. I'm not, but Funimation, Crunchyroll had a huge issue with this recently. Yeah, William, I think we're just going to see this, more and more over the place, where people, they want access to this digital download, and then they just can't get it, and like, it's, I think, like I said, I think it's going to become more and more of a problem as time goes on. Quinn's review was outstanding. I haven't checked it out yet. I've actually watched most of what he what stuff. Actually, I also Quinn. So there's this Electric Bastion Land guy, Chris McDowell, has a podcast, and he has a series called Rule of Three, where he has people over. He had Kelsey D on, and he recently had Quinton on, and basically asked him, like, what are 3 RPGs that are just like, living in your mind rent free right now? And it was kind of interesting. Quint was on there, and it was pretty good. But yeah, somebody there recently I don't think it was Quinn, but somebody on there recently in their best of 3, they actually said Torchbearer. I was like shocked. Howdy, Doc Flamingo. Good to see you. Good to see you. Satir, hello. Derek, I wanted to ask you about your video SEO. I have no idea why your search and why your live stream is ranked so low in the search ratings. Well, my search engine optimization is essentially nothing. I mean, I have my title. I put trait. I have tags in there that, in theory, should make it something that would come up for people who are searching for certain things. But I think what it mostly is that the algorithm knows that, by and large, people skip over my thumbnails when it, the number of thumbnails that YouTube can show a person is a limited real estate. And so the way that algorithm is, it's very brutal. I mean, it's going to show my thumbnail to a handful of people. And, if it shows it to 20 or 30 people, and only like one of those people click on that thumbnail, the algorithm's basically going to say, that's it. This video is not getting shown. We don't have, there's a million other videos that we need to find that'll get people engaged and keep people interested. Now, why don't people click on my thumbnails? Well, I think it comes down to 3 reasons. The reason number 1, quite frankly, is the topic. The topic most often does not always apply or appeal to everybody. And number 2, and by the way, topic, I just mean either like it's something super deep dive on a really obscure thing, or it's a strange RPG. It's just not 5e or not Pathfinder 2. Number 2 is the length is very off-putting to a lot of people. No, a lot of people don't want to click onto a 3-hour video, and it's a live stream, so some people feel like live streams have a lot of dead air, and they're not maybe as prepared for how much I actually talk during these things. And I think that's totally reasonable as well, and to be clear, the live streams are very interactive. And so watching it on the VOD, well, good. I think you lose something because, if someone were to make a 10 or 15-minute video that was legitimately well made, in theory, you're getting a lot more information in a very dense pack. Here, sometimes we explore the space, the tangents. And while we like the tangents, not everybody does. They're like, I wanted to see a video about this thing. And I'd rather you not talk about these other things that you get tangent on. And then the third thing is, my titles, my thumbnail aren't like, super clickbait. So, that and clickbait works. Clickbait is unreal in its effectiveness because, people are getting bombarded with these links to click on all day on YouTube, on Instagram, on whatever, TikTok. So you need to jump out and stand up in people's face. So those are the main reasons I believe I am. All right, we're going to end the poll, and it was kind of all over the place, but 31% of you did say it was the Wheel of Pain TPK, and that's probably the right answer. But Ryutama and Demiplane also near the top. Chubo's in last place. There's Mark. Very true on number 3. Yeah, I mean, I don't. I just don't do it. I don't think they'd be 20 minutes long. I also don't think. I mean, somebody tried to do that once. They tried to edit down one of our live streams, and they were like, yeah, it was still like 45 minutes long. And like in the world of YouTube, like being 3 hours long is fine. Like once your video is more than 45 minutes, it can be 2 hours. Like once it's past a certain length, it just doesn't even matter anymore how long it is. At a certain point, like the people who are going to click on it, we're going to click on it, whether it's an hour or whether it's 2 hours. It doesn't really matter at that point. So, the thing, like I remember when we were going to try shorts. I've told this story before, but we remember we were going to try to do shorts, and YouTube was really trying to say, hey, you guys should try shorts. I said, oh, okay, well, how are we going to do shorts? And Smith was like, well, I can give it a try. I'm driving to the office every day. I'll just turn on my phone and I'll record. I'll just give him some thoughts and whatever. And I'm like, okay. So Smith was like, oh man, that's so tough to keep that under 5 minutes. And I went, dude, under 5 minutes, the short has to be under 60 seconds. And he was like, what? How does anybody say anything in under 60 seconds? And I was like, that's just it. It wasn't, they don't say anything. And so like, he thought he was like really doing a good job, keeping it under 3 minutes, keeping it under 4 minutes. And I was like, he's like, that was tough. And I was like, dude, a short's 60 seconds. And he was like, shit. Shadram says driving with Smith was great. Gonzo says, I just joined the Knights. No longer a forever worker. Well, excellent. Fantastic. Welcome. Well, make sure you get on the Discord so we can say hi to you. That's awesome. Thank you, Gonzo. Plus, like I said, I love Gonzo. my favorite Muppet, and like I said, I had a blue parakeet named Gonzo. Check out Pirate Software. He's great at shorts. Yeah, it's I've seen his shorts. I mean, I don't like shorts. Sometimes like anybody, it can happen where I just fall in, where like it shows me one and it shows me another one, and then like after 2 or 3, I suddenly start going like, what are we even doing here? And I close it. A ton of Pirate Software shorts are carved out from bits from his live streams. Right, and the thing about it is, I don't know if he's doing that or if he has someone who does that for him, but, doing that kind of editing and that kind of like carving it out, and then you have to, fit it to that form factor and stuff like that. I mean, it's a lot more work. But I love shorts, actually, like the clothing. The best way is to turn clips from viewers into shorts. Yeah, except like there's not really a way to do that. Like you can't like have viewer clips stored on your site like the way you can in Twitch. So I don't think that actually works. Also, we don't have, Pirate Software probably has tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views. And so, he's got a lot of people there that are, trying to do that. So, Sanderson, what's up? Oh, well, that's all right. Well, we're here. I'm thankful for all of you. So that's what's most important. Shahadram says all streams should be something like, you won't believe, wait till the end. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if a stream should be like that. I think that that's like maybe what a video should be like, but I don't know. Yeah. That's right. I need to have like the. I mean, there's a video. It's the video by Derek from Veritasium where he's talking to Mr. Beast about clickbait, and he's talking about like Mr. Beast is like, yeah, I've got like an archive of like 40 or 50 of my like shocked faces that my editing team just kind of put in rotation and sort of use over and over again. Well, the other problem is, I don't think YouTube likes showing people live streams. I don't, I mean, the fact that they changed it so that my VODs now go into a separate tab called live, even though they're not live anymore, it felt to me like, so I get tons of comments from people who say, basically equivalently to, man, I love your they'll leave a comment on like an older video and they'll say, man, I love this video. I'd love to watch more. I looked at your channel, but it looks like you don't publish videos anymore. Hope everything's fine, and I'm like, go check the live tab. We did 10 hours of content a week for the last 3 years. And they're like, oh shit. So yeah, they just don't even know. Ryutama was good for the I don't like this. Oh wait, actually, you know what? Okay, this is kind of cool. This is kind of neat. It's kind of, oh my god, what happened? Damn you, Ryojin! What happened to this thing? Lance, what was Demiplane? Demiplane is like this, like it's like D&D Beyond, where like you subscribe and you like pay for this like exclusive access to a book on basically just this website. It's just like another version of D&D Beyond. There are apparently 3 or so reasons to use the mythic roll first, and they probably apply almost never. Yes, I could be wrong, and again, I get that there are some instances where you would want to specifically have mythic proficiency for the roll, because otherwise you couldn't make the roll. But I can tell you, in playing 3 years of Pathfinder 2, I have never seen that come up that much. And as I've said before, if your character is trained, let's say, so you're low level, you're trained in picking locks, and there's some lock, but it requires somebody to have master level proficiency. And you go, I can't even try this. And you go, I'm going to spend a mythic point. I, through my calling, can use my mythic points to give me mythic proficiency on open lock checks. Now I can attempt it. Great. The DC is still so high above you because for it to require master proficiency means that the DC is probably in the 30s. And sure, your trained is going from 2 to 8 or 2 to 10, which is a +8 bonus. But your total bonus is still going to be like +16. So you're going to need to roll like a 19 or something, or an 18. So it's kind of crazy. Yeah. Well, I think they're good. That doesn't mean that other people think that they're good. Yeah, the zooming part was the part that was really driving me crazy, Damien, on that Marvel stream. So just a low impressions click-through rate, I suppose. That's rough. Yep, that's exactly it. My number of impressions to number of clicks is very low. Yeah. My click-through rate is, below 3% or something like that. And it's lower on some of my other videos as well. Let's see here. John, another Orange Legacy awesome member. John, in here with the John, I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Nick says, I just listened to Colville's new 50-minute video about 70s D&D on my Thanksgiving drive. I listened to it yesterday. And I legitimately thought at the end, that's it? This was just getting good. So I'm definitely the KLC argument. Right. That's the same way I listened to it. And I was like, oh, there's more stuff. He's like, oh, there's a lot more stuff that we could have gotten into. It's like, okay, well, then talk about it. Talk about it. Derek looked up Slug Blaster in an incognito window, and yours is 8th, despite having more views and more recency than many of the videos above it. Yeah, it is what it is. And I don't know that YouTube is wrong. I mean, YouTube as a platform exists to get people to stay on the platform, right? To click into a video and stay glued to that TV to get screen to get served ads. And then when that video's over, they want to make sure that you stay on the platform, right? That you click the next thing or you let the auto thing, go or whatever like that. They don't want you to but when people click on our videos, I think a lot of times they click on our videos and they go, yeah, that's enough YouTube for today, and then they close the browser window. And so we pay the price, I suppose, is one way to look at it. Yeah, I just don't have the time or the capacity to just throw that tons of darts and stuff. I mean, I get it. It's not a bad option, but I just don't love it. I'm sub with the bell clicked and I never get notifications. Yeah, like there's a whole thing now where like there's the bell and then there's like the bell plus, like where the bell will now notify you if the YouTube algorithm thinks that you would like this video. But there's another option where you can click the bell and say all, and then it will definitely serve you all. So like even if you click the bell, the algorithm is still going to say, but would you really watch this? And if so, I'll send it to you. If not, I'm not going to send it to you. So there's like a different bell you have to click, or like within that bell, there's another option which just says like, give me all notifications. Could I get ChatGPT to beta-fy your video? Yes. Oh, we've done it before on like the Discord just to like have fun and, see what YouTube would come up with, right? Like if we were, doing something like, let's take a look here at one of our more recent videos. So one of our more recent videos here was, or one of our more recent live streams was, let's say here, unlocking the secrets of TTRPG meta currencies. Right. All right. So let's do this one. All right. All right. I have a YouTube title, Unlocking the Secrets of TTRPG Meta Currencies. Can you give me 5 super clickbait titles that will increase click-through rate? All right. Here we go. Let's see what it says here. All right, so my video title was Unlocking the Secrets of TTRPG Meta Currencies. Hey! Shadram, we'll get to your 24-month member message in a minute, but thank you very, 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 very much. That is awesome. Thank you so much for the 2 years. Yeah, that's incredible. So I just want to finish up this thought here. So my title was called Unlocking the Secrets of TTRPG Meta Currencies. Right. And then, my thumbnail was, said meta magic and, it's a clever, gamey, nerdy instead. Right. Instead of, because like it's meta currency, but I called it meta magic because, meta magic from D&D 3rd edition. I don't think it's even in 5th edition anymore. And then it had like a picture of like a bunch of coins, like fantasy looking coins. And so here's what it says. Here's what ChatGPT says. This one trick will transform your TTRPG sessions forever. That's number 1. Number 2, why TTRPG designers don't want you to know about these meta currency secrets. Number 3, the hidden power of meta currencies, you're playing wrong if you're playing without it. Number 4, top 5 TTRPG meta currencies that will completely change how you play. And number 5, truth revealed, the dark history of meta currencies in TTRPG and why you may actually love them. Now, are those all clickbait, hyper clickbait? Yes, they're horrible, but I guarantee you I would get twice as many clicks and views. Number three is right. Number 3 was the hidden power of TTRPG meta currencies. You're playing it wrong without it. Oh, hello, buddy. Hi. Mark. What's going on? You want to come up on? You want to come up here? Sorry, the dogs. He's like, Dad, what are you doing? John, hey, what's going on? I've been experiencing TTRPG burnout. There are too many games and too many books coming out. I started to feel buried. It's been nice taking a break. Yeah, John, I think, we talked a little bit about this where I myself now feel like, It's almost like I have executive dysfunction for TTRPGs, where I have so many TTRPGs that I'm interested in that I become interested in less of them or none of them because I feel like, well, I can't pick an RPG. Actually, there's a great passage from the book The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, and Edith is talking about her futures, and she's envisioning all of the futures that she could be as like a fig tree or a plum tree, and she's standing at the bottom, and each different fig is a potential future, a future as a great athlete, a great writer, a mom, and she wants all of the futures, but she can't pick one because to pick one of them would be to give up on all the other ones, and she doesn't want to give up on all the other ones. So instead, she just waits and waits and waits, and one by one, the figs, ripen and then rot and then fall off the tree. Anyways, but it's kind of the same thing with RPGs, where there's so many awesome RPGs, and RPGs aren't something that I, at least, want to spend like a session on. If I want to get into an RPG, I want to chew down to the marrow. And so that doesn't give me a lot of time. And unfortunately, time is a precious commodity. All right, I wanted to come over to Shadram's 24-month message. All right, thank you. Shadram says, wow, 2 years. Thanks for the many, many hours of streams and VODs. I like the long-form content. The tangents aside are some of the best bits. Well, Shadram, that's why you're here. That's why you're a 2-month member. That's why you're in the Patreon. And that's why we love you. Thank you, buddy. So just good, awesome stuff. But thank you so much for all the support, Shadram. You've been a real champion, and it's been awesome having you around here. What a mythic Thanksgiving stream. Thank you, Elder Goblins. Yes. Mythic. I mean, I'm a big fan of Mythic rule sets. I can't tell. I don't know how to tell you. D&D 4th edition. I love the epic levels. Pathfinder 1. I love the Mythic rules. The Mythic rules in Pathfinder 2, I think, start a little quiet, and there's still some probably ones in there that aren't super broken, but maybe that makes them better because then it doesn't completely ruin your game. See here. Lope says, I will defend Ryutama's system. If that trying to make a narrative game instead of a player-focused one. It's an interesting way to think about it. And I've learned a lot about the way that the Japanese culture interacts with the TTRPG space, where it really puts a lot more like emphasis almost on the GM being the sort of most important person. And I think that is a huge deal for me. I view the GM as being both the most and least important person. For me, the game is all about the players and their decisions and what they want to do. And Ryutama, and I think this is part of the Japanese storytelling arc, that was that whole section there with the XP that I didn't quite get, where they had to like sign an affidavit saying I was a player in this GM's game, but because like a lot of the games are set up like the GM runs a campaign for a revolving set of players who only come and do one shots. It's a very weird approach to RPGs for sure. And like the GM has to level up, but does it with different people. So it's almost like, look, they signed it. I did play. I didn't just make this up. That was like a very weird experience to that. I feel like because the market has gotten so saturated, true, games have been forced to either get really weird, true, or really specific just to keep up, and it's getting out of hand. Agreed, and agreed. I think, John, everything you said there, I completely agree with. The market is very saturated, and I do think that you either basically are, there's kind of two paths, right, John? One is, I'm like D&D, but I'm not. I'm D&D, but this. I'm D&D, but we did this part better. We use 4 ability scores instead of 6 ability scores. We're totally different than Dungeons & Dragons, right? Like, there's so many games out there that are like that now, that are basically just saying, instead of playing D&D, play this game. We're promising the same kind of thing, just better, right? D&D, but better. D&D, but smoother. D&D, but this. D&D, but that. So, to me, those are just very unappealing, mostly. And then if you do want to go outside of that space, then you need to really fucking go outside of that space and hit a niche super, super, super hard. And that's where you end up getting really weird or like hyper specific. And so I agree. And then that just naturally just sort of narrows it down. And even when I like that narrow niche that this game is applying to, I'm always like, in my mind, I'm like, I only have time to run maybe at most 2 games, 3 games a month, like maybe I could play one game weekly or one game monthly and then a third game bi-weekly or something. But I'm like, well, but if I only have, and more realistically, I probably only have two. Like, do I want one of my games to be this like super hyper specific niche that, quite frankly, I don't think I'm going to want to play for months or years. I love RPGs that I can invest into in that regard, you know? YouTube doesn't even feed me Derek's live streams, and I'm his chat mod. There you go. That should be everything that you need to know. Derek, we're going back to, I'm sorry, catching up now with the chat, but Derek hates the GPT chat titles. Let's see here. Mark, of course, said these are great. I've heard of this where, yeah, it makes it look something like that. Nutrimentor E, what? Executive dysfunction. Executive dysfunction is like a term that's used for ADHD and other, types where it's like executive function is the dysfunction is the inability to make a choice, when you're presented with options, to make an executive decision, basically. What's up, Jackal? Good to have you here. Nice turkey emoji. Lugs. Holy shit. You just described how I feel towards my TTRPG hobby right now. I have so many games I want to play that I can't settle on one. It's becoming an issue for my DMing habits. Absolutely. And I think that this is very similar to that classic DM trait. I think Z Bashu made a comic about it. Where hold on a sec. Okay, sorry about that. This is my mommy. There are very few. My phone does not really ring for anybody, but I only have like a limited list of people that will actually come through, and one of them is my mom. So, but she's getting older, so if she calls, I pick up. Sorry about that. Any case, it's this Z Bashu I think made a joke, comic about it, where this idea that like as a DM, you're like, guys, I'm all in on this game. I'm really excited about it, and you're like, your players are like, okay, yeah, well, this is a little strange, but I'm willing. I'm supporting I'm supporting you as a DM. You're the DM. We're just the players. You're putting in all the hard work. So I'm gonna buy this book or read this, rule set or whatever, and you get it, and you play it for like a few weeks, and then the DM comes in and goes, guys, that other game, that's shit. That game's trash. But this new game is really. So I really want to avoid doing that, and so instead I'm just like, okay, I can only pick one. So which one am I going to pick? And it just, so I sit there watching and rotting as these opportunities fall off the air or fall out of the tree. The Knights of Last Tangent, except there never is a last tangent, John, just the end of the stream until the next tangent begins. Jacko, that was a huge issue for us on our Friday games. I mean, Friday has been our default TTRPG day for going on 20 years. But nowadays, people get to Friday and they're finished with work. It's 5 o'clock, and then it's like, okay, well, the session starts at 7 or 8. I need to basically eat, say hi to my kids and my wife, and then head over to the stream or head over to the game. And people get there and they're just like, like they're just so beat and exhausted from working and from just the drudgery of life that the last thing that they want to do is focus up and play a game that I think asks a fair amount from you in terms of your energy and your effort. I'm not saying that it's not worth it. I'm just saying that I think RPGs are not a passive hobby, right? Whereas as opposed to like I'm sitting here watching a movie or I'm playing a video game that requires almost no skill, Exactly, Mr. Squid. I'm D&D, but I have 14, right? That's our whole. You think 3 actions is enough? Well, we have 4 actions. Oh, you think 4 actions is enough? We have 5 action economy. Oh yeah, you heard about 5 action economy? What about a 6 action economy? By 2030, we're going to be up to the 14 action economy. Um, I mean, it's true. You know, they're very, you know, D&D has always gone through these phases of popularity and kind of waning popularity, right? Like D&D was the game system, obviously, in the late 70s, early 80s, and then D&D Second Edition came out, and while D&D was still undisputably the king, there we did see this sort of rise of of the new generation of RPGs, the vampires and the World of Darkness, and then Third Edition came out, and everything got taken out and destroyed, and like there was very few options. But then Fourth Edition came out, and there was kind of this lull again. So, but the way they're designing Fifth Edition now is like, they don't ever want there to be another edition of D&D again, so maybe we won't see that. Did I see the Free League Humble Bundle? Well, if there is one, somebody probably posted it on. Oh no, Free League Humble Bundle. Let's take a look here. Is this going on right now? It is. You get Mutant Year Zero, Tales from the Loop, Symbaroum, Forbidden Lands, Dragonbane, Twilight 2000, Coriolis, more Mutant Year Zero stuff, the Dragonbane Bestiary, the Book of Beasts from Forbidden Lands, the Bitter Reach, more Symbaroum books, Twilight, the Blood March book, Coriolis. Wow. Yeah, that's a great bundle for $18. Yeah, that's an insane deal. If you do not own any of those books, or even like one or two of those books, I mean, $18 to get all of that, that's crazy. Yeah. 29 items for $18. That's the all PDF bundle. 29 PDFs. I mean, but you're basically getting the core set of Dragonbane, so you're getting the core rules plus all the adventure stuff there. The bestiary, you're getting almost all the Forbidden Lands books, I think, that have come out in PDF form. And you're getting a shitload of Mutant Year Zero and Coriolis. I didn't realize they were coming out that much. But also Symbaroum and Tales from the Loop and Tales from the Mutant Year Zero and Coriolis. Yeah, that's pretty good. I often find more satisfying experience when the GM actually use their GM power, because in my experience, at least, the players have a lot of time for spotlight, even when the GMs push the narrative. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I think the GM should be a player too, and get to do stuff as well. I just don't know that necessarily that my desires for a story should override what the other players want to do. And fundamentally, Lope, I'm a very selfish, petty man, and I don't want to tell a story. I want to be entertained. I'm like the host who goes, and they're the one who organize the party. They're the ones who prepare the cocktails and the hors d'oeuvres, and I set out, this opportunity. But what I'm really doing is I love to hear people's stories, and I love inviting interesting people to come to my party and share their stories with me and entertain me. And I'm willing to go through the little bit of work it takes to set up the party and to do all the prep. But then once you're there, your job is to entertain me. That's what I'm having. That's why I invited you. Not so that I could feed you. Fuck that. You're here because I want good stories and I want good guests. So do your part. Bob says, only can stop to say hi, stop in to say happy Thanksgiving. Excited to see the deals tomorrow. I'm sure the Discord will let me know. Bob, yeah. I mean, maybe there won't be any deals. Bob, do we really need more RPGs at this point? Do we? Is there a PDF for the Forbidden Lands dice? Sadly, no. You don't need them though, but they are nice to have. They're not the worst dice I've ever seen in terms of, or they're not the best dice I've ever seen in terms of readability, but they are nice. What, buddy? Sir, I'm busy. My dog is like going crazy. Get out of here. Show the dog. They want to see you, buddy. Come here. Hello, sir. This is Zeus. Thank you, buddy. This is my old man. He's 10. And he He looks like a little weirdo. He looks like a little freak. Sir. They want to see you. All right, buddy. All right. Doggos are cute. I love my dogs. This is why everyone needs to run shorter chapters than epic campaigns. Completely agree with that statement. Sanderson says it's funny because in my play group we have multiple GMs, and the one that's like that they can't decide on a game ends up being forgotten by everyone else because no one trusts them to break campaigns less. That's totally reasonable as well. Meanwhile, the player who says, the chill guy who goes, let's just run another Pathfinder Warhammer Fate game, get players, and it sort of works. Yeah. One thing, John, we were talking about Japanese RPGs. One thing that I've really come to appreciate about Japanese TTRPGs is the books are very blunt and to the point. They are compact and short without any fluff or art. Very utilitarian. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind a game being very to the point. I'll say that. I don't feel like I have to read a novel just to try a game. That's fair. I mean, you know, that's the other classic side of now this modern day thing, right? Where Z Bashu did a great comic about this, where it's like, no, this is not a game. This is a failed author who has tricked you into reading their microfiction. And again, I'm not pointing any fingers at anything. But like, I feel like some games now are RPGs second or third. They are art projects. They are comic books. They are novellas. They are, a failed attempt to be an author, or, a world builder for your failed author. Like, I feel like there's other ulterior motives about making a good game that trump making a game. Morkborg. So for me, like, those games have prioritized something else than the game in order to sort of create more of a, I mean, it's a work of creative art. There's nothing wrong with that. And you could totally love that. That's totally fine. But understanding that for me, the game should be utilitarian, and I don't want just, I don't want to just experience this creative piece of artwork. I want to play a game, Shadram says, it sounds like their games, we only get 2 hours per week. So we usually play monthly, and most of that gets spent bantering because tired. Yeah, that's true. That's true. D20 Megaclone Era was terrible. I mean, the D20 engine was just on everything. They just stuck it. I mean, in many ways, it was very similar to the 5e era that we're in now. So I don't disagree with you on that at all. Happy Thanksgiving, Keith. Right. No licensed IP stuff. Have you heard of the storytelling system? Which storytelling system? Is that the Chronicles of? Is that the World of Darkness one, or is that the that other one? I'm thinking that's the World of Darkness one. Oh, well, thank you, Sanderson. Yes, the dog is very cute. I do love the dog. We have two of them. Derek, are you going to go out for Black Friday sales? Hell no. Hell no. Number one, we're supposed to get a winter storm tonight. So we're supposed to get 6 to 22 inches of snow. I'm not going anywhere. Number two, nah. Like, I don't need crap. If I need something or if I want something, I just get it. I don't really wait for it to go on sale. If I want it, I get it. And most of the time, I don't want it, so I don't get it. So it's fine. Plus, I have painters coming next week, so I've got to finish prepping the first floor of my house for the painters. No, sir. I do not like Gothic horror RPGs. That is true. I've gotten used to campaigns not lasting, so I've had to really wait. Yeah. That's a real, that's a big deal. Part of the problem, of course, is that could be a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, if the players don't engage with the game, then maybe the game never takes off, but maybe the reason why that didn't take off is because you didn't engage. Sean says Mork Borg has a game in it. You could have fooled me. Put Zeus in your video images and watch your views soar cheat codes. Yes, that is actually true. If I just I just literally just took different pictures of my dog and put them in there, it would probably work. It involves the player's buy-in. Storytelling system, more of an interactive story than RPG. And I love that there are games out there that people like doing that. And I think that that's awesome. But that kind of interactive story, for me, the game element of role-playing games is very important. You know, I like board games. I like card games. I don't play video games anymore, but I used to like video games. I like a game element. I like being able to. I like a game about storytelling rather than storytelling that has game elements. Does that make sense? So for me, it's like games that tell stories rather than stories that have games. Have you tried Yaziba's Bed and Breakfast yet? I have not. Let's see here. That's true. The D20 era. That is very true, Damien. I mean, the indie era, that's part of the, but see, Damien, that's part of the reason why the indie era, that's why the indie scene flourished. See, Burning Wheel came out in 2004, a year after D&D 3.5 came out. So in some ways, the D20 era was the impetus, was the catalyst for the indie movement that didn't really, it took 3 or 4 or 5 years of being underground before it became quasi-mainstream. So in some ways, the D20 era allowed the indie movement to grow. 6 to 22 is a wide spectrum. Well, you see, Keith, where I live, Cleveland, Ohio, is one of the few places in the world that gets what's called lake effect snow. And basically, our lake is very warm. It's a shallow lake, and so it's a big lake with a lot of surface area, but it's not that deep. So it gets really, really warm in the summer and into the fall. And even right now, it's cold, but it's not. It's like much warmer than the ambient atmosphere. And so all this moisture comes off of the lake, which is to the north of us. And then the way that the weather systems work is it brings in this cold Arctic air, especially when the jet stream dips down, and it just blasts this cold Arctic air, which comes over the lake. And so when you combine these high-speed cold winds with a very humid, moist air, all of it just gets turned to snow, and it drops in what they call the snow belt, and we just get obliterated. But because it can vary depending on exactly the angle of the wind and how it's shifting, and did it come from straight north or from slightly from northwest or west, it really depends. I mean, you could have variations where you get. I mean, Cleveland, the city, isn't that like huge of a city, but it is very common that the east side of Cleveland, where I live, might get 2 feet of snow, and the west side of Cleveland might literally only get a dusting. So it can be a huge swing. Even here from, where Bob lives, Bob might get 5 inches, I might get 10. So it can be a huge difference. Anyways, Vin says, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, Vin. Appreciate it. Thank you, Self-Confessed Cynic. Yeah, it was good Thanksgiving. Went over to my sister's. I was only there for a couple hours. Saw my folks and, played with my sister's dogs and talked to her a little bit and kind of ignored my bastard nephews. They're 18 and 16 now, and they're just punk ass kids. So I just don't really like them that much. And then I came home and did some work and around the house, and then got ready for this stream. That was basically my whole day. I slept in. It was nice. Dr. Waits, most ridiculous D20 game interpretation. I have the Old Testament role-playing in case you want D&D stats for Moses. I think I remember that game. Oh, man. What is the most ridiculous D20 game that I own? I don't know. I'd have to really look, but I don't have anything quite so ridiculous as that. William is a Michigander, and they are Lake Effect. They get Lake Effect snow as well. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it is a nightmare. It can be devastating. They're supposed to get it really bad over the weekend around Buffalo. Well, Buffalo always gets it really bad. I mean, they're like the Lake Effect snow capital, I think, of the world. Lope says, I think the mechanics are to serve the story than being in balance with a lot of the system encouraging a play style that interact with the story. So, Keith, they barely know how to read. They're definitely not getting into TTRPGs. I mean, they grew up with Roblox and online gambling, and they are just degenerate. um, lakes are weird. Oceans greater than lakes. I mean, oceans can be pretty weird too. But anyways, I have, one of the reasons why I'm really excited to try to play Torchbearer, which of course is a Burning Wheel descendant, is because the game element is very procedural, and my fascination with Torchbearer. I mean, I've owned the game for 10 years and I've never really gotten a chance to really play a campaign of it, but the last year or so, I've been playing a fair number, maybe a dozen games of Cole Wehrle's Oath, which is a board game, and it's totally presented like a board game. It's not presented like a role-playing game at all. But myself, and I didn't even think about it, I thought this was like a unique effect that I was noticing, which was that I was like, man, but I'm playing this board game and we're trying to play the game, but like people are telling stories through the game mechanics. And the game mechanic is not trying to tell a story at all. It's just there. And I thought it was so interesting. And then when the first expansion came out, I saw I started reading stuff about it online, and I saw all of these, bits of information about like people basically feeling the same way I was feeling, where it's like, this isn't like a normal board game. It's a very procedural game because it's, it's got rules and strictures, what you have to do. But we are filling in the gaps with these story elements and turning it into something more interesting than it would ever be on its own. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And Torchbearer kind of made me think the same way, which is it's a RPG, but the procedures of the game aren't to be mucked with, right? And it's one of those things where I think the restrictions and the requirements of the game force you into storytelling and force you into situations that you wouldn't otherwise get into. And in that respect, it's kind of like the opposite of like modern concept of like, oh, it's a role playing game. You can just do whatever you want, throw the rules out whenever you don't need them. If the rules are bothering you, who cares? Just make a call. And this game says no, like no. These rules are here for a reason, because they create an environment that encourages emergent gameplay experience and emergent storytelling experience. And I really respect that, basically. John says, kids these days growing up with online gambling is actually kind of insane. I never really thought about that. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I don't know. The first, I mean, one of them, probably the older one, is gonna, I mean, if that person, if he ever gets to a casino, I mean, he's gonna be needing to join Gamblers Anonymous. I mean, his whole life has just been loot crates and loot boxes and, dopamine rushes from, different little Roblox games. And, can I get Robux? Can I get Robux? Can I get Robux? I mean, now he's, I don't know if he's as into it as he used to be, but I mean, he was, and when I say like used to be, not like when he was 10, I mean, like when he was like 16. But yeah, it's pretty bad. As someone who used to work in the casino industry, I despise sports gambling and anything to do with loot boxes. It's teaching young people how to gamble, and it's truly despicable. Yeah, I mean, here's the crazy thing. I go to Vegas 3 times a year, usually 2 to 3 times a year. When I go on a cruise, I'll gamble a little bit on a cruise, and then when I go to Vegas, I'll gamble in Vegas. And obviously, I like gambling. I go to Vegas. I literally do not gamble outside of those trips. I don't have any of the sports betting apps on my phone. We have a casino downtown in Cleveland. I never go there. And for me, it's very compartmentalized. I enjoy it, but it's totally optional. So I do agree that it's become very normalized. And I have a lot of people who, in my social group, especially my Magic the Gathering social group, who do a lot of sports betting now on their phone. And it is a problem because they're like betting every game, John, I think that's if not $1 billion question, it's certainly $1 million question. Are TTRPGs a concept living on borrowed time? And are there any stats on new generations adopting the hobby or not? I don't think it's going to like die out overnight, literally with this next generation. But I think TTRPGs have 3 big strikes going against it. The first is it's slow paced. Almost by definition, TTRPGs are slower paced than a video game or a movie or any of that other stuff. And I think that by and large, the generation now doesn't have, and each generation has less and less patience and, attention to spend. And so I think overall, the ask of TTRPGs, which is sit down and, pay attention, and this is going to sit down and this is going to take a long time. Second thing is the paying attention part. Nowadays, people are used to their attention only being asked to be paid for in 30-second increments. And it's very easy for people to flip around. I talked about executive dysfunction, right? Where it's, everyone has ADHD to a certain extent now because our phones have programmed us to just be like, I need a constant set of stimulating activities. I need to constantly be getting stimulated. And if I'm not getting stimulated, I'm bored and I'm going to go do something else and pull out my phone. TTRPGs don't work like that. It's much more of a slow burn, and it asks you to be patient and to sit back and observe. And the third strike that I think TTRPGs having to go on them is they're social. I think being social is also going away. Now, I know that they are not, it's anecdotal, but I've heard this from many people who have kids that are in their teenagers years. But, my sister's kids, my nephews, I should say, but other friends who have older children, they basically don't have friends. They may have like one friend or two friends, and there's people they know from school and people they talk to, they take, Snapchat or TikTok, whatever, online with. But by and large, they do not have these social groups of friends. And given the choice between doing something that involves, finding friends and social interactions and not doing something that involves social interactions, they are going to choose the introverted option every time. And so TTRPGs ask you, and in some ways demand that you be social, that you, be part of a social pact, a social contract, a social responsibility. I've heard a lot of people say that in the space that are kind of younger, where one of the things they don't like about the TTRPG game is, and I read this about, like, I've seen a couple posts on Reddit that are essentially this. They don't like the idea of feeling like I'm being forced into something, right? Like there's this social pressure on me that I need to show up every week. Like, what if I don't want to show up? What if I just want to, I don't remember the term. There's like a Gen Alpha term for this, where you basically just like, basically ghost. I think it's not ghost, but like where you basically just like never show up to anything. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's, and I think Patrick is right. I think you've seen I don't want to call it the rise yet, but, we've certainly seen things like Iron Sworn and Star Forged and more and more games that are like solo RPG, solo RPG, solo RPG. And I think that's becoming more and more popular. So I think that when you combine solo RPGs with the rise of technology, digital technology, potentially AI, I think that you are going to have, that is what I think RPGs are going to look like in the future in some way, some sort of solo AI game. So yeah, I don't know what's, I mean, so yeah, I don't think, like I said, I don't think they're going to go away, in the next 5 years or 10 years, but 20, maybe. Yeah. So Mark, he would love Monopoly Go. He probably would. Maybe he does play it. I always bet 24 as well, Karama, because that's my birthday, the 24th. 24 black. Yeah, I think the people that you're going to see get involved with RPGs are legacy, people, right? Like people that get indoctrinated to it because their parents or their uncle or their aunt or whatever played and sort of indoctrinated into them, And definitely physical books are going away as well. Like I said, I've recently experienced this. I buy a lot of PDFs with this channel because we do the first looks and stuff. And I remember that physical books used to be $50 or maybe $40, and the PDF was $10. And the company was basically like, well, we expect you to buy it, but some people don't want to buy the book or they can't. The shipping's too expensive. They'll buy the PDF. And then what companies figured out was that everybody was buying the PDFs nowadays. People didn't want the hardcover, and especially as the hardcover went up to $70. People were like, well, we'll just buy the PDF at 10. And then the company was like, well, shit, we're not selling any hard copies anymore at 70. We're only selling PDFs at 10, but we still have to make money. So now the PDFs are like $20, $25, $30. I've seen 40 PDFs when the hardcover might only be an extra. Now it used to be that like the hardcover was like, 50 or 60 and the PDF was 10. Now it's like the PDF is like 40 and then the hardcover is like $10 more or something, or $15 more. It's crazy. Oh, if Wizards of the Coast could figure out a way to bring loot boxes to D&D, they tried to do this in 4th edition. Okay, I don't know how much you people know about fortune cards. Okay, but let me see if we can find them here. Here we go. Boom, there we go. Open a new image tab. So this, I don't know how well this is going to show, but well, there we go. This is a this was a pack. This was the Dungeons and Dragons fortune cards. This was from D&D 4th edition. Fury of the Feywild booster packs. These were random cards. Okay? These were random packs of cards. And inside of them were like these like cards that gave you different powers. Mind over metal, attack. And by the way, you see this thing here, 13 of 80, that's the set number. You see the icon after it? That's the rarity. So there were rares, uncommons, and commons. And this one, play at the start of your turn. The first attack roll you make this turn targets will instead of the defense the attack normally takes. That's mind over metal. So play this card, and then you make your bow shot or your sword swing attack will instead of attacking armor class or whatever it would normally attack. But to acquire these was random, and the game was basically like, go out and buy these and bring them to your 4E game. They're official for Adventure League, and which was called, I think, D&D Encounters back then. But like, yeah, it was gross. Yeah, I loved 4th edition D&D. I owned everything. I own everything. I didn't own those. I did not own those. I agree. Digital is going to become more and more the default way to play games, Keith says, I do like to play solo, and I'm old. Ironically, TTRPGs were born out of the socially inept. Keith, I think, though, there's a distinct difference between the nerd or whatever, the RPG player of the 70s and the 80s, maybe even the 90s, and today, which is, or the problem that we're talking about, which is, at that time and place, as a person, you were social. Okay? A lot of TTRPG players were social. Society just didn't accept them. So, but when they would find their group, they would form incredible tight bonds, and they would be very extroverted and very outgoing and very eager to socially engage with that group, right? With that type of person, or that type of people. Nowadays, we're talking about people who don't want social interaction at all, and I think that's a little bit different. Exactly, Hardrick. Be socially inept together, right? I mean, this is like, the group of people sitting around making, jokes about, Lord of the Rings and the Matrix or something like that in Harry Potter, or whatever, or making jokes about Frodo and Ged from Middle Earth or from Earthsea or whatever. And everybody else is like, what are these nerds talking about? But you all think it's hilarious, and somebody says something and they make a Monty Python joke and everybody's laughing. But like, you appreciate that group dynamic. You just, it's not necessarily popularly accepted. Now I'm talking about people who just plain do not want to socially interact at all. My D&D tribe got me through high school for real. Yeah. I mean, the people I've played D&D with are the people who are still my friends 25, 30 years later. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Other friendships have, have come and gone, but, yeah. Ken says I should always bet on black. I don't actually play that much roulette when I'm at the casino. Yeah, price of books could go up big time too. I'll tell you this: most of the TTRPG books are being printed in China. And if there is a 50% tariff put on Chinese imports, prices are going to go up by at least 50%. So yeah, we'll see how much that happens. then everyone will just be buying PDFs, you know. John, you know, we've talked about this before. I'm interested about this too. I've talked in the past, and people kind of said I was gatekeeping, but I was talking about like a lot of the people being tourists. You know, that a lot of people get involved with D&D through Stranger Things or Critical Role or BG3, and they're here. You know, they're here for a good time, but not a long time. You know, and I don't think they're going to be the people who stick with the game through the decades like so many of us have. Do I remember Gamma World cards? Yeah. I mean, that was from the same era. Well, I don't know which Gamma World we're talking about, but if we're talking about Gamma World 7th Edition, Gamma World 7th Edition was basically 4th Edition D&D. MTG was the original OG loot box. That is true. You know, I mean, you know, booster crack, I mean, was a term that was thrown around, you know, pretty early on in the Magic the Gathering terminology. And I have seen people who have basically, you know, had a gambling problem with trying to buy packs and rip open and get, you know, chase rares. But of course, back in the day, you only had rares and mythic rares. Now they started putting in ultra chase promos, numbered cards, ultra premium cards, one ring, one of one. You know, they've doubled down on the loot box nature of the Magic the Gathering pack to make it even more. You still have your fortune cards and Gamma World mutation decks. Well, Dr. Waits, you're more into it than I was, because like I said, the fortune card, I think I bought a couple packs just to see what they were like, and that was a bridge too far for me. 5e has booster packs for minis even now, which is the best they can figure out for loot boxes for now. Well, 20 years ago, D&D had booster packs for minis. The D&D minis line was a collectible miniature game. Now, you could use the packs, the minis, to play in your D&D campaign, but the boxes were randomized, and you didn't know what you were getting. You got one rare mini, you got 2 uncommon minis, and you got like 6 common minis in each booster pack. And they came in big cases, and you didn't know what you were ever buying. There's a reason why I have, you know, I don't know, 22 ogres and like, you know, 32 trolls, because we opened a ton of boxes because we loved the minis so much. And I didn't mind getting duplicates because then I could throw more monsters at the party. Lugs. I mean, there are people out there that will call you a gatekeeper, but I won't be one of them. Instead, I'll be joining you and keeping the gate. I am okay if the TTRPG loses its mainstream appeal. You know, I think that all in all, I'm happy that more people who really truly love the hobby have gotten exposed to it and are now playing. But and I've said these rants before about Gen Con and stuff like that. I don't like you know, I don't like the tourists, you know. So I think that I think it has become a little bit saturated, and it's become more of a lifestyle brand. But it's about the game, you know. And I'm not into sports, okay. But my buddy is. He's a big football fan, and the way he describes it, he's like, look, he goes, I'm really into football, and I can tell you, you know, every player on most teams in the NFL. I can tell you, you know, some of their stats. I know where they went to college and stuff like that. Do I expect everyone who watches football, American football, to have that kind of knowledge? No. He goes, it drives me crazy when I see these people who the NFL is targeting at, and they own thousands of dollars of NFL merch, and they go to so many different games, but they don't even know all the rules of football. They are only going to the football game. They're only wearing all the merch because it's part of this like football lifestyle, you know, football fan lifestyle, rather than actually being a fan of the game, which is what it should be fundamentally about. And he didn't understand it, but I was like, I totally understand it. And he's like, well, you don't even like sports. I go, I know, but I understand it, because this is the same thing, in my opinion, that has happened to RPGs as well. In fact, it's almost become cool to not know the rules, right? You know, like in a really weird way, you know, and to be like, yeah, I don't understand anything, and we just show up and we just have fun, and it's all about the fun and whatever, you know. But Wizard Coast's like, but make sure you buy a book before you just have fun, because that way we can make money, you know. I don't know, Mr. Squid, if they did that, but it wouldn't surprise me. But also, I don't think they have. I think we would have seen I think if they did this, we would have seen 15 videos about it from some of our hype colleagues and hype friends who love to talk about everything. Yeah, the same with me, Keith. All my close friends are through TTRPGs, even if we don't meet up as much anymore. And well, yeah, I mean, I get it. But that's not the way that, corporations work, unfortunately. Booster packs for animations on VTT. I could see that. Yeah, sometimes tourists come and then they stay because they love what they've seen, and that's great. And you need to get people in the door. I get that. You need to have people coming in, but it should be to come in to actually experience what the game has to be, not experience the lifestyle elements of it as much as I could think of. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Mike. I'm glad you made it home. You think the hobby is better than ever, but D&D is not. Again, I don't necessarily get all the D&D hate specifically. I'm not really sure. But overall, what do I think about the state of the hobby? I don't know, Patrick. In some ways, I'm a little concerned about the state of the hobby, because I see a lot of people out there who, I go to these conventions. I'm not going to lie to you, folks. I see a lot of people out there. And I'm like, you people are, and when I say bad, I don't mean like you're not Matt Mercer and you can't do a cool voice. Like, I'm not talking about that. I don't even think that is part of being a role-playing game. But I just see these GMs and I see these players and I go, man, these people are bad players. They're bad GMs. I would not want to play in this person's game. Yeah, loot box via dinner. Although I will say this, my one buddy who I know through Magic the Gathering, he has what he calls, I mean, they've been doing it for a long time, but we call it the Taco Bell loot box. He'll go to Taco Bell and he'll say, they're like, what do you want? And he'll say, give me 5 things, 5 different things. I don't care what they are. Just give me 5 different things. You pick them. And then surprise me, like just charge me the bill and then I'll get the stuff in the thing. And so then they give it to him, usually in a bag or box or whatever like that. And it's just got 5 random things in it from Taco Bell. Could be a bean burrito and a gordita and a Dorito taco and who knows? It could be anything. But I do appreciate that. So now you just need to normalize that and make that into a thing. The self-confessed then says, people barely know how to do their jobs, let alone the rules of a game that they play. Also true. Yeah, I mean, the whole job thing is a whole separate can of worms. I mean, I will say this, big shout out to people who work with their hands, and that do some sort of trade, construction, plumbing, electrician, whatever. Because I got to tell you, I read every day more and more and more about companies that are downsizing, industries that are disappearing because of the advent of technology and AI. I know that a lot of people in the video production space, like news programs and like local affiliates, have been really just like gutting or cutting out their production staff because now they have production workflows and AI stuff that can basically just handle most of the routing and most of the queuing up graphics and all that other stuff. And it's scary, and as someone in the analytics and data science community, I can only tell you that, every year is just bringing more and more and more crazy advancements. And so, it'll be a long time before we have an AI robot that can, lay a new outlet box for you in your garage or replace the stack pipe in your toilet or something like that. So anyways, that was just a random tangent about that. But, everyone is, I don't know that Critical Role is going to use Daggerheart. You would think that they should and that they would, but I wonder if even they know that if they didn't do 5, like, I wonder if Critical Role is like, well, we need to do 5e. Like, if we don't do like whatever, how everyone's like, maybe 5e success is because of Critical Role. And like, what if Critical Role is sitting there going like, I wonder if our success is because of 5e. Like they're just like, we can't not do 5e. We actually have people to pay, you know? Yes, there's a lot of choice, Mike. That is true. You can't be wrong about that. You can't be mad about that. There's a lot of choice. MCDM's Illrigger class, which is a terrible name, is now available on D&D Beyond for $14.99. I was shocked when I saw that people were upset that Wizards of the Coast, I don't know, I think they reversed this decision, but apparently Wizards of the Coast used to sell individual feats and classes out of their books. I mean, which is literally the definition of a microtransaction. And people were actually upset that they stopped doing that. And they're like, we're just going to sell the books now. And people were like, no, I want to buy the book a la carte. I don't want the entire book for $39.95. I want this feat and this class for $12. And I was like, wow. Like that was so shocking to me. I couldn't believe it, and that it was true. Yeah. So what I found about, so Dr. Waits is talking about what I was talking about with the players. So what I found about bad new players is that they're just there to be entertained. They don't learn the rules. They don't take action. They're very passive. They're the danger. That's the danger of tourist fans, and I agree. And I see a lot of bad players. Well, I see two. When I see most bad players, and when I see most bad GMs, when I see most bad players, they are basically just like, I want to put in minimal to zero effort. I don't want to learn anything. I don't really want to have to pay attention to anything. I want to be constantly entertained. I don't want to have to be put into a spot. I just want to be told a story and just kind of be like, cool, and I get to roll the dice. And then when I see bad GMs, I see GMs who are like, I have this story. I have this 5 acts arc that I've played out, and then their character's going to do this, and then they're going to be betrayed, and then that's going to lead to this revelation that the betrayal was actually part of an undercover movement, and then when the party decides to join the rebellion, and like they've got this whole thing planned, they're like, it would make a great Brandon Sanderson novel. Then they're just telling that story, and I can't abide by either of those philosophies. John says, I'm a software engineer, and people interested in the career think that the job is all coding. When I give talks or mentor people, I always encourage them to pick up a trade. SE is ultimately problem solving, and nothing lets you practice problem solving like the trades. I think that's completely true, John. And I'll be honest with you, I've talked about this before on this channel. I mean, I've been involved in databases and analytics and data science for, 20 years. And I've never gotten the kind of job satisfaction out of crafting analyses or building models or doing, massive presentations with the CEO of a Fortune 100 company that I got out of building somebody's kitchen table. So I do really find that the problem solving in the physical space is very, very, very satisfying. But my therapist said people who think and work with their minds tend to need to relax with their hands, which maybe she was just telling me that I need to jerk off more. But I think what she was saying is that that's why I like building tables, and I'm so interested in woodworking and stuff. We're one. The wheels are coming off the bus. Yeah, what if Critical Role and 5e was just a symbiotic relationship all along, right? They both needed each other. That's awesome. Learning to work on cars. Yeah, John. I agree. Because that is going to be something that is just going to be just in demand. Forever, I think. And I agree, William. Even if it's not entirely based on 5e, their fan base knows it's a risk to move away after 10 years. I agree. All right, Sanderson's putting his money that the flagship show will be Daggerheart. Interesting. Armored Anathema says, paying $15 for a single class. These are the same people that whine about putting maybe $10 more, if even that, into a PDF of an actually good system. Again, I don't get, where people are like, I can't believe they're raising the price on this, but sell me microtransaction feats and classes. It's crazy. Yeah. Bad players, no effort, no prep. Bad GMs, too much effort, too much prep. Yeah, maybe that's the rubric. I mean, I don't think there's anything bad necessarily with prep, but I do think there's a problem with trying to control the story in that respect. Yeah. Well, the killing of the trades thing is just, like a whole. I mean, look, it's a great time to be in the trades. Like I said, I mean, I'm paying. I live in a very modest condo, and I bought it when I was in my 20s, and now I'm in my 40s. It's almost paid off. It's great, but it's a little small for my needs, and I should have moved a long time ago, but I didn't. And then, I was hiking the trail and starting my own business and failing at all that, COVID and stuff. Anyways, point is, I live in a very modest condo, and it's going to cost me close to $15,000 to get people to come here and paint. Because I'm not a painter, and I've got high ceilings in the living room, so it would just be a disaster. Plus, I have the fire damage. $15,000 to paint the house, and it's like, I asked somebody I have a bathroom downstairs, 8 foot by 5 feet. Okay, that's 40 square feet. It's a small bathroom, right? 8 by 5, with a shower, shower, sink, toilet, and one contractor wanted, I redid it last year. One contractor wanted $10,000 to do just that bathroom. And I was like, are you crazy? And he's like, look, I'm honestly telling you a price that I want you to say no to. He's like, I have so much work for the next 6 to 12 months that even if you said yes, I'd be kind of disappointed. And I would still have to put you, 8-9 months out down the road, because I just have more work than I can possibly handle, because there's still people who need this stuff done, and nobody knows how to do it anymore. Or wants to know, or wants to learn how to do it, Do you have a remedy for bad players outside of just getting new ones? What can a DM do to help compensate for players that are more passive and there to be entertained? I mean, the DM's role is multifaceted, and I don't necessarily know that you can be everybody's therapist. But I think that, definitely putting an emphasis on player decision making. Unfortunately, I think a lot of bad players maybe develop those bad habits because they're used to playing with GMs or in adventures that are fairly railroaded. And so they've gotten kind of acclimatized to not making any meaningful choices. And that the game is just going to kind of proceed, no matter what they do, kind of in the same way. So I think coming up with a way that you can, introduce this idea to them of your decisions matter, and what you decide to do in this situation is going to change the outcome of everything, rather than like, oh, okay, well, the orcs are attacking you and you obviously have to attack them, and what feat are you going to use to attack them? That's the big choice that you have to make for this period of time. Whereas, like, imagine you describe encountering a group of orcs, and then you ask the players, you're like, what do you want to do? And the players are like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, they're not attacking you, but they're definitely orcs, and they're definitely kind of the bad guys. Like, what do you want to do? And the players are like, well, what can we do? I said, you can do anything. You could talk to them, you could attack them, you could flee, you could ambush them. I mean, like, you could try to convince them to join your side. You're like, is that something we could even do? Yeah, you could do that. I don't know that they'll agree to that, but you guys have magic and very convincing people. Your PCs are kind of awesome. If maybe you, the player, couldn't actually convince an orc to betray his, orc war chief, but maybe your character, the smooth-talking, silver-tongued bard, could. I don't know. Let's find out. Let's find out together. Let's be entertained together. Then yeah, I think that's how you do it. Is putting them into the driver's seat and letting them realize that they're the ones in control. I can't believe we got up to 60 people. This is great. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Mike says, reminds me of a joke. The doctor said I could jerk off all the time. No, the doctor said you could have a stroke at any time. pretty good. If they're not going to play Daggerheart, then what was the point of making it to begin with? If the creators won't play their own game, why would anyone else? Lugs, because I get it. Because as a group of gamers, okay, let me think of it this way. This channel is my pet project that I do with some of my friends. We make a couple bucks on the side here and there. For a long time, we didn't. In fact, I put money into this thing every year. I lost money on this channel year after year after year, and that's fine. I subsidized this channel, but with my regular earnings from my job, which I still have. So I don't have to do anything. I don't have to make any concerns about what the market wants. I can make whatever videos I want. I like to respect my patrons because they support me, and there is a community built up of people who've engaged with me. So I let them pick, some weird topics, even if they're not going to get a lot of views, 1,000 views, 2,000 views, right? But Critical Role, as gamers, as Darrington Press, they may say, this is the type of game that we would want to play, right? If I was a real business, let's say, Lugs, that my company that I work for closed down, or let's say they sold us off, or they shuttered us, or capital management said get rid of the whole division, or I got laid off or whatever, and suddenly I didn't have a full-time job, and now I had to make all of my money through this YouTube channel. Well, now I've got now I can't just make now am I going to stop playing all of these awesome games? No, these are the games that I really care about. But what does my audience want? Now, in my case, my audience is mostly made up of people who obviously have been coming here over time to see these kind of weird games. But if I was trying to be like, how do I grow? I'm not even 15,000 subs. Like, how do I get to 50,000 subs? I need to start talking about 5e. That's just where the people are. That's where the views are. That's where the money is. So in the case of Critical Role, they may be like, Daggerheart is the game that we would want to play. It's the game that we created. But we have fiduciary responsibility to our entire crew. I'm sure they have a staff of dozens and dozens of people. I can only imagine that their overhead is. There's a lot of people who rely on them. They can't just say, we're going to play Daggerheart, even if it's the game that they made and the game that they, in theory, would want to play. So I don't think they're going to abandon 5e, but I could be wrong. Southern beaches go brrr. Yeah, no prep, low prep is good. All right, well, we shall see, Sebastian. We shall see. It's an Ouroboros of monopolization. Yeah, there's some truth to that. What are my thoughts on horror in RPG? Lope, my answer is I don't like horror in general. So horror in RPG is for me very unappealing, but that's because horror in general is kind of unappealing. I've had some good experiences running Dread, which is obviously very specifically designed to encapsulate that sort of horror experience. I think the Jenga Tower can work really well, but I find that a lot of the social elements of horror, I don't think lead to a good game experience. That's my personal opinion. I don't think there's anything wrong with those games. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, and I think there's some people out there who can obviously run them in such a way that they become very interesting gameplay spaces. But for me, it's personally not my favorite thing. On this day, Derek quotes a song from The Little Mermaid. I want to be where the people are. I want to see them dancing, strolling around down what's that thing I call? Oh yeah, street. Flipping your fins, you don't get too far. Legs are required for running, dancing, strolling. All right, anyways. Little Mermaid's a bop. I believe the name of that song is Wish I Could Be Part of Your World, or Part of Your World. Let's see here. Goated song. It's great. I love the beginning of it. I've got who's it's how's it start? Oh goodness, how does it start? I've got who's it's and what's it's galore. You want a thingamabob? I've got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. I'm trying to remember how it starts, though. I can't remember. Now I gotta look it up. Barnhoff. Oh, look at this stuff. Yeah, look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Mike.
Make it tipped $5. That's how you get to 50k subs.
Yes. Yes. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has everything? Look at this trove, treasures untold. How many wonders can one cavern hold? Looking around here, you think, sure, she's got everything. I've got gadgets and gizmos aplenty. I've got who's its and what's its galore. You want a thingamabob? I've got 20. But who cares? No big deal. I want more. All right, thank you, Mike. That's for your $5. All right. We got people who knew the lyrics. Let's see what else we got here. Torin. What's up, Torin? Have you considered trying to design a TTRPG that solves some of the issues you have with not being able to play as a 40-plus person? Oh, Torin. I mean, that's tough. I mean, to be honest with you, Torin, as I've said many times here, I came up with an analogy the other day on Discord. I said, I'm a race car driver, right? I'm not a race car engineer. Right? I'm the person who takes that performance engine that someone else built, gets into it, takes it around the track. Maybe I can get you first place. Or maybe I come back and say, strong engine, great engine, bad brakes, right? I need more control. I need more control around the curves. I lose control as soon as anything goes right. But great acceleration, or I say, it's underpowered, or the aesthetics are a little questionable. I'm a race car driver. I'm not a race car engineer. And I don't think that, and while being a good race car driver, you probably do have a functional understanding of what some of the elements of race car engineering design would be. It doesn't necessarily, being a race car driver and then deciding I know how to build cars is, I think, problematic. So that is the case. So that's what I'll say there. $20 super chat from Scotty P. Who knew that we were missing was show tunes? Well, as I've said before, I love musicals. I love, the Disney musicals. But I love Broadway musicals, and I'm really excited. I haven't seen Wicked yet, but I'm a big fan of Cynthia and Ariana, and I've been listening to the soundtrack to the release, but I haven't seen the actual movie yet. Of course, I've seen clips. I've seen some interviews. I mean, it looks amazing. It looks really good. I'm really excited to see what they do with it. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. And I'm also one of those people, like a hater. Like the show originated on Broadway with Idina Menzel as Elphaba, and Glinda was played by oh gosh, why can't I think of her name? I just was literally talking about her. Oh, Kristen Chenoweth, and I don't really like their voices that much. I've seen the show 3 times, and obviously, I never saw it with the original Broadway cast. I've seen touring groups and stuff, and there's a bunch of people online who've played Elphaba, who've played Glinda, and I find their performances usually a lot better. My favorite is a Dutch singer named Willemien Verkijk. Go ahead and look it up. It's like Willemien Willimjin. That's like her first name, Verkijk. Anyways, she's like my favorite Elphaba ever. But this Cynthia girl is quite good. Now, I've only listened to the soundtrack once, but she could be really good. Anyways, so I do love show tunes. Sanderson knew what was up. Yeah, Chenoweth. Getting old, man. It's crazy because I just literally saw an interview with her the other day. It was Kristen Chenoweth with Ariana Grande, and then Idina Menzel was with Cynthia Rivero, and they were kind of talking. It was really emotional. It was really nice. Of course he knows the lyrics to the Little Mermaid song. Of course he does. Look, if Keith, I got to make the money somehow. Look, there are two ways I could make $5, right? I could get 1,000 to 1,500 views on YouTube. That's not happening. Or I could sing and get a tip from somebody. That's much more likely to come through. What about a meta layer above the RPG, specific strategies and techniques to just play without worrying about perfection? And then you can teach it to GRM and other authors who've stopped writing. I myself, Torin, am one of the reasons I also, Torin, could not design a TTRPG, as the people here who have worked with me on stuff before, self-confessed cynic is in the chat, which is I also am a perfectionist, and I've been told by bosses and teammates, perfect is the enemy of the good, and it's better to have a good solution today than a perfect solution never. And so I've been told this my whole life, but I for something that I deeply truly care about, I want to do it right, and I don't like taking shortcuts. And so for me, I do play. I try to play with perfection. And so when that factors into the way that I design things too. We do not have karaoke nights right now, but maybe we need them. I don't know. I didn't get any tips. I didn't really get any tips until I started singing. Though to be fair, some drivers went on to make amazing. Look, yes, but the drivers who went on to make amazing cars were the exception. Right. And I do not view myself as being particularly exceptional, certainly not in the space of RPG design. So in that regard, I don't necessarily, and also too, like the stuff that I want out of an RPG, it's like, well, what do you want out of the car? I don't know. I want it to be better handling, faster, with better brakes, better gas mileage. It's like, oh, so you just want to be better in everything? Yeah. Well, we don't know how to do that. Oh, well, okay. I could definitely talk about the Wicked movie when I finally see it. Oh, you said it's good? Very good. Lazy DM's Guide versus Derek's Perfectionist DM Guide. Yes, exactly. Here's how you have to be perfect. Very nice, Tim. What is my favorite stage show? Wicked is very good, and I won't lie. Like it doesn't really matter what show you see, but the end of Act 1, where she sings Defying Gravity, and then, she comes out of the shadows, and she says, it's not her you want, it's me, and then she flies into the air. That visual, I don't think has ever been better, anything in, I think, but my favorite stage show is probably Phantom of the Opera. I have I just remember listening to that as a kid, and I just love it, and I just think that. All right. Oh God, musicals! Oh God, can we please stop with the musicals and the stage shows? Derek seems like a Rent person. One song, glory. One song before the virus takes hold. Glory on another empty life. Yeah, I like Rent. 525,600 minutes. 525,000 moments so dear. All right, anyways. You did not like it, Dan. Okay. Now, Dan, are you a musical fan? Are you a Wicked fan? Or did you just see it as a movie lover in general? I'm curious. I can't wait for the fully produced Eldemon song. It'll be fun. I mean, I'm going to try to do it right. Happy Thanksgiving, Boothby. Hello, King Hodop. Right, exactly. All design's about trade-offs. I agree, Derek. And this is ultimately the problem that I have, which is I am aware, right? We've talked about this, and I'm not going to bust out the whiteboard, but we've talked about this before, right? Which is like a lot of times when I see a game, I think I want to make certain elements of this game better. And a lot of times my brain thinks the way that I make things more interesting and better is to complicate them, all right? Or to complexify them. And I also understand that, what I'm looking for here. That complexity is a bad thing in general, you know, and so like I'm very much aware that there's a trade-off. If I want to have the game do the things that I want it to do, the game is going to become more complex. That means it's longer, thicker, heavier, more effort to read, more cumbersome, slower to play at the table, and all these things are real costs. But it's like, okay, and some of those things just feel like they are untractable, you know, problems, and so that's where I get really frustrated, and I don't stop, you know, I kind of bop out. Have I ever been accused of being a musical tourist? I don't think so, Keith. I mean, you know, I was a Broadway series subscriber for 15 years, paid a lot of money to have really great seats, and you know, donated to the various arts funds there. I've seen very low budget off Broadway type performances, and I like the you know, kind of some of the more weirder, stranger, more offbeat shows, as well as just the big popular ones as well. I'm not as engaged with the hobby as now. I mean, I would say I'm not a musician, right? Because I've never been in a musical performance. I've been backstage on a couple shows, you know, but I've never been like a part of it. So in that regard, did I live in New York City? No, Keith, but I live in Cleveland, Ohio, which has the second largest performing arts district in the United States of America, outside of New York City, believe it or not. But yeah, Playhouse Square is the second largest performing arts district in the country. So that being said, I have seen shows in New York City on Broadway and off. Actually, I've only been to New York City maybe like 3 or 4 times. I think I've tried to see a show every time I was there. One time I think I went for work and I didn't see a show there. Look up Mira Ruiz. All right, I'll do that. Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen performances in like different languages, and I think it's awesome. Is anyone going to Lumicon? I do not know what Lumicon is. Well, Dan, that'll help. That'll true. Yeah, well, complexity is like your budget, right? And you got to know, you know, and the thing about a budget is people will spend money, spend more money if they think that what they're buying is worth it. But how do you get them, you know, to be willing to invest in that kind of gameplay experience, you know? Tyler, that's also a good point. Tyler says, it reminds me of the warnings giving at the beginning of film analysis courses. The more you dive into how you make something good, it can become harder to enjoy what is in front of you. I agree with that. Yeah. PF2, Lancer, they have limits, you know, and I think some of those games test that limits, you know. Buy the Torchbearer 2nd Edition core set in PDF format for $25, which is my country's currency, is equivalent of a physical translated book of at least average quality. Which one should I buy? Will Netters, I don't know if I know what you're asking. Are you saying, should I buy the Torchbearer 2nd Edition box set in PDF format? Oh, but you're saying, or you could buy the translated physical book. I mean, if you want the physical book, I would say go for it. But I mean, the PDF itself is nothing like special. It's not like it's, you know, complexity. It's not like it's a super special PDF or anything like that. But I don't know. I have to see it. But I mean, from the scenes I've seen, yeah, I mean, obviously they can do more. Like they can actually have her, you know, CGI. They can actually have her, the Wicked Witch, fly around on a broom. They can't really do that on the stage, but you know, we'll see. There's also different types of complexity. Like complexity in character creation is not the same as complexity in combat versus complexity in dice resolution. That is true. That is true. And there are times and places where you can afford to spend more complexity and more complication. You know, like you know, and again, I always talk about the difference between complexity and complication. Complexity means that the choice itself is inherently difficult. Complicated to me, it means that there's a lot of different parts and pieces and things that you have to look at. And the best example of this is feats for the most part. I mean, there are some feats that are fairly complex. Most feats aren't that complex, you know. you get +1 to do this, or you have this. Now there are some feats now that stretch the imagination, but most feats are pretty complex, or not that complex. But it is a complicated process because there might be dozens of feats, potentially many dozens of feats that you could choose from. And so while the concept of the feat itself and how to implement the feat isn't really that complex, it is complicated because now whenever you level up, you have this huge list of feats to consider, and you have to consider them in the context of all your other feats. And so it becomes a much more complicated thing, even if the actual like feat itself as a game mechanic isn't really that complex. Well, and that's the thing too, Armor and Anathema, right? Having a game that's complicated because they want to give you a lot of choices to weigh runs the difference. There's another word for overly complicated, right? Which is the game, game bloat, right? Which is just completely, just too much stuff, or there's not enough stuff, and it's just we say it's undercooked, or we say there's not enough flesh, there's not enough meat on the bones. So, Now, Hardrick says that they are bored of complexity. I'm seeking simplicity and elegance. Now, elegance is, I would say, probably one of the top goals. I don't even mind a game system that is complex. It may seem kind of strange to think of what is complex and elegant. I'll give you a perfect example of complex and elegant. Okay, complex and elegant is like a mechanical wristwatch, right? A mechanical wristwatch is a very complex piece of precision engineering, but it's so elegant. The way that they've figured out a way to make all of the things work together, and even though it's got dozens of gears and drivetrains and the arbor and the spring arbor and all this other stuff, you could control it with this single tab here, which lets you set the date, lets you set the time, just do all these different things. So I think watches is sort of an interesting comparison of something that is elegant, even though it is very complex. And I appreciate that about the watch, about the design of watches. Right, because it needs to be usable in like the real human world. Derek waited his whole life for this watch analogy. No, I just like watches. I've wanted to get into actual like watch collecting for a while, but it's so expensive. It's very expensive. So I like systems where you can handle many situations using the same rubric. The Forge in the Dark action roll handles so much. It prevents complicated exceptions by its nature. Yes. So, the core mechanic of a game like Forge in the Dark I think it could afford to be more complex because that core mechanic gets used over and over and over and over again, and it sort of is the bedrock principle upon which the entire game is designed. And so you can get a lot of, juice for your squeeze, so to speak, What brand of watch do you prefer? Well, I personally love Omega. I like Omega. I'm not a big Rolex fan. Oh, did we have a dropout? Looks like we had a dropout. I don't know if you said that, but what brand of watch do I prefer? I like Omegas, Hamiltons, Seikos, Grand Seikos. I'm not really a big fan of Rolexes so much. I mean, they're fine. It's not like my thing that jumps out to me. Breitling's okay. I'm trying to think of some other brands that I like. Those are like the top 4 for me. Like the game I've been talking about a lot on this channel, Torchbearer, I consider to be a complex game. The game itself considers it to be a complex game, but I don't think it's very complicated. There aren't, hundreds of feats to choose from, dozens of classes, dozens of races. It's not really all that complicated. There's not really a ton of like little beeps and bots and things, but I do consider the game itself to be very complex. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of depth to the mechanics, and it's very easy to underestimate how complex the system could be. But more important than that, because it's a procedural game system, it it merges and sort of extends throughout the game system, where a mechanic might seem like you're like, this mechanic seems stupid. And you're like, because you don't fully appreciate how what that mechanic is doing over here turns knobs and dials and gears over here and makes for this, churning procedure. Now, I will freely admit that, what's the word I'm looking for? I will freely admit that you don't have to actually know what these mechanics are doing, because, right, as long as the GM knows what they're doing. But sometimes I think people, miss the forest for the trees. They don't necessarily understand. Like, I've seen people get really upset with like the checks. I know I don't want to get into Torchbearer here, but like, in the game you go into a dungeon, right? It's called the adventure phase, and you're in the adventure phase, and you're doing dungeon type shit. And eventually, your characters will build up a bunch of conditions and broken armor and stuff like that. And in order to repair those and heal up, you have to go into what's called a camp phase. Think of it like a short rest, maybe like a short rest meets a long rest, kind of, in D&D terms. It's a couple. It's a little bit of a mini downtime, but you're not like in the safety of town. You're in some sort of camp. Maybe you're underground and you find a small place where you can get a little fire going and cook a small meal, or maybe you find a small cave or whatever. Anyways, it's called the camp phase. Okay, so and they're like, okay, yeah, that's totally normal in RPGs. Well, in Torchbearer, you can't camp unless your characters as a group have a resource called checks, which you've earned. And you earn checks by using your character's role-playing personality traits against yourself mechanically. In other words, you could say, I'm going to get a minus penalty to this action because my character's impatient. And I'm going to take this penalty. It's going to make me less likely to succeed at this action, but that's going to earn my character a check or 2 checks. And then as a group, you earn these checks. And then once you have checks, you can go to camp. And you can only do as many things as you want to in camp equal to the number of checks you have. If you go to camp with no checks, you can't do anything in camp. Sure, you flop down and sleep, but you don't heal anything. You don't get anything done because you're just exhausted or whatever. Now, there's no diegetic tie-in between what a check is and why you could use it. But the reason that rule is there and beats you over the head with it is because it creates a play pattern that the game designers think is really awesome. And I tend to agree. And so, like, it's an example of where, like, it's a little heavy-handed, but the complexity there, and I can think it's very easy to sit down and say, oh, it's just a role-playing game, as Dan says, role-play your character, grab a D6s and roll. Okay, you are right. That is basically the fundamental rules of the game. But I think if you don't appreciate or at least understand what the game is trying to do and how it does it, it could be very easy to get very frustrated with the game and say, this thing is stupid. And it's not, you may not like it, but it's not stupid. It's just going about something in a way that you may not even understand what it's being driven at, Well, that is an unfortunate consequence. So this is like, I don't remember where I saw this from. It's like I think it was Mitch Hedberg, maybe. Mitch Hedberg was like, I kept losing all my pens, so I bought a really expensive pen so I wouldn't lose my pen, or something like that. So maybe the key is you just need to buy a really expensive watch, so that way you won't feel like you'll be like, oh, I'm definitely not losing this thing because I spent $1,000 on it or something, The watch I want more than anything is the Omega Sea Diver Professional, maybe the Aquaterra version. It's like a $6,000 watch. There's a reason I don't own it, but I do love it. They've got an Omega boutique store at the Bellagio in Vegas, and we usually stay near the Bellagio. Sometimes we stay at the Bellagio, and I always walk by it, and I'm always like looking at it. It's like old person alert. It's like that scene from Wayne's World where Wayne is like at the guitar thing, he sees the Gibson or whatever, and he's like, "It will be mine. Oh yes, it will be mine." That's how I feel every time I see that. Have you started your FU home game? No, Rule of Cool. Definitely not. I don't know if there's going to be an FU home game. I don't know if there's going to be an FU home game. I don't know. Derek, I was just about to bring up the Wayne's World reference, and then we got 2 people who say no stairway. No stairway. Denied. He also says it to Cassandra, too. When he sees Tia Carrera, he's like, she will be mine. Oh, yes, she will be mine. Dan, that's another example of like, Burning Wheel, Torchbearer. It's like you're signing up because you want to see, like almost like a social experiment. It's like you want to put your character through this ringer and see what comes out the other end. To start with a wad of clay and to end up with a fired brick, or a piece of steel. Yeah, no, we were considering it, but I don't. I mean, there might be a Fabula Ultimate game that occurs. I just don't think it will be with my home group. I'm not really sure what my home group is going to do. Actually, I just sent out a text to the group chat or whatever the other day, and I basically said, here, I'll read you what I said. I said, it's the gaming boys. I said, I know winter is coming /here, but I'd still love to get together because our gaming schedule's basically been on break since we finished up our last campaign, and also, I kind of had my mental breakdown. I said, even if the holidays are terrible for scheduling, I'd love to get together, even if it's just to play some board games. We could play even on TTS if that makes it easier, and maybe we can do some sort of winter phase RPG via VTT for the next few months. Basically, anything that we can do to play more games together. And I said, I do need to get over Smiths at some point, though, because I've been sitting on a gift for you for like over a month. That's awesome. So, anyways, yeah, this was fun. Thanks for everybody for hanging out with me tonight. Coming up, we've got December. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 9 streams in December. One of them is Christmas Eve, and there probably will not be one even on Christmas Eve, even though I normally do, but we do stuff in Christmas Eve. So 8 streams. And one of them is New Year's Eve. So New Year's Eve is special for us because that was our very first live stream that we ever did, was a New Year's Eve stream. It was me and Tim. That was the first time we ever went live on this channel. So we've got 8 streams basically coming up. One of them is a New Year's Eve stream. So call it 7 streams throughout the course of the month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. 7 plus New Year's. And a couple of them I think are going to be about Pathfinder 2. We're going to get some guests from the Patreon on, and we're going to talk about re-ranking the classes with Remastered. And I also do want to kind of spend some time maybe talking about D&D 2024. I own this book. I have not opened it or read it yet, so it remains to be seen what is in this book. But I'm kind of interested to kind of give my thoughts on D&D 2024 and kind of think about this as a revision versus Pathfinder 2 as a revision, and what do I like and what do I not like. KC says, "Sup, y'all? Seems like I joined right at the end. The New Year's live stream was what convinced me to join the Patreon. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Last of the family just left. Cleanup is over. It's time to relax. Yeah, like I said, I had a pretty easy Thanksgiving. I went over to my sister's, and then I came home, and I had actually cooked some food yesterday just for my roommate and I and one of her friends, and so we had that. So I basically had like a lunch-ish, and then I kind of had like a small dinner for me, and now it is the restful time. But then we're gonna be in December, and I've got 1, 2, 3. Basically, I have 3 work weeks, maybe 3.5 work weeks to get a couple more job objectives kind of wrapped up for the end of the year. We'll see. My company only got our job objectives in October, our annual job objectives in October. So it was kind of like a little bit of like a guess. I think I can get this done in 3 months. So, yeah, we'll see. So it may sound like, oh, Derek, you delayed. No, it's only been 2 months. So Wow, we're talking about systems people actually play in December. Yes, unfortunately, it does seem like we're going to be doing that. Unfortunately, although I got to be honest with you, Vin, I don't care. They're not bad games. They're just so boring. They're just so boring. They're just so boring. That's all I can say. There's not. Oh, I don't. I'm not. I'm not above getting tips and advice. I mean, I learn just like you people. But I'm hoping. I know that 2014 had DMG had some issues and problems. I've heard a couple of people talk about the 2024 DMG, and I'm like, oh, it sounds like they took some of the stuff from 4th edition DMG and 4th edition DMG 2 and put it into the book. And I think that that's good. I think that the DMG needs to teach people how to actually run a game, not how to create your own cosmology or how to create your own pantheon of gods. I'm not saying that stuff isn't a skill or the thing that needs to be developed, but I just don't feel like that needs to be in the Dungeon Master's Guide. But again, I stress this enough. When the DMG came out, the original 2014 DMG, this was not the DMD that we know today. This book was them kind of basically saying like, look, D&D is over. We are just doing, an homage to the classics. And so to me, this DMG is basically an homage to the 1st edition Dungeon Master's Guide. And so a lot of the stuff in this book is very, in my mind, kind of reminiscent of kind of an old school aesthetic that doesn't really exist anymore. And, as a result of that, I think that has done a somewhat of a disservice to people, because while I like that, I mean, like even Appendix A, right, is a random dungeon generator. Why is that in this book? Well, because it was in the 1st edition DMG, but random dungeons, let alone random dungeons, aren't the way that most people play 5e and haven't played 5e in a long time, right? Like they're all, doing Witch of the Wildlife or APs, or they're like we're just pretending, and we're sitting around and we're being we're having fun. Like nobody is drawing maps anymore and then having their groups go through dungeons, right? Like that's just, I mean, of course some people are, but I'm just saying like that's not really a thing. But when they made this book after 4th edition D&D, 4th edition D&D was kind of like, look, yeah, forget all that D&D stuff, that crap from 1st edition, 2nd edition. And we're 4th edition now. It's like, action hero kicking ass. And then everyone was like, we hate 4th edition. So Wizards of the Coast was like, fine, we will give you sort of a modernized version of that 1st edition DMG. And here's, kind of like a modern retelling of the tale, right? It's like when, like one of your favorite movies from the 80s or some of the 70s gets remade in the modern era using, it's like Dune, Denis Villeneuve's, Dune versus David Lynch's Dune. Like imagine if Dune was made with modern graphics and actual like things that don't look horrible. Oh, cool. I love it. That's what the DMG was. So this DMG was designed for, not for the current audience that plays it. It was designed for, old grognards like me, but people who had basically said like, I kind of bounced off 4th edition. I didn't like the focus on the action and the powers and like all the kind of like movie stuff. I want to just get back to, 50, that's what, if you read the player's handbook, the 2014 player's handbook, you read the 2014 DMG, it's talking about 50-foot ropes and 10-foot poles and spikes. And I don't even know, right, most 5e players like, yeah, we don't even use encumbrance and I don't really track equipment. Like, it's just like, it's very out of sync with the way that the modern gameplay, like the gameplay of D&D accelerated so quickly from 2014 through, through the pandemic in terms of like the type of games that people were playing. Excuse me. Let's see here. Jackal says, I'm pretty much over gridded tactical combat. Yeah, I mean, I like it. Let me be clear about something. I like the tactics of combat, but there's got to be two things. Number one, it has to be a legitimately interesting combat, right? The choices I have to make actually have to be tactical. There has to be a chance that I can lose, that the math of the game isn't pretty much set up for me to win. There has to be something that's going to keep my interest involved. And that often isn't the case. And the second thing is, regardless, it does take a long time. And most of the time now, I don't have enough time. If I was playing RPGs, 10 hours a week, yeah, fine. I'll spend an hour in a combat. Well, I'll have a session where we do two things and it's 2 combats or 3 combats. But now it's just so much effort for what essentially it usually doesn't, combats very rarely in RPGs change anything, right? It's you enter the combat and then you win, and then you're on the other side of the combat. And the only thing that didn't change was that you're not dead, right? Which you weren't really ever going to be anyway. So it literally feels like it's busy work, busy work, where the game is just giving you something to do for a while. And so I just don't really appreciate that. I agree. Pathfinder 2nd Edition 5e are not even on my radar anymore, despite the fact that I play in a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game every Tuesday. Okay, by definition, it's on your radar then. I did not play Pathfinder 2nd Edition at all this year. We've wrapped up our Abominations Vaults campaign in December of last year, and then I did not play. And then, all the OGL and the re-release, and it was this big drama, llama. And I was like, I'll just wait until everything gets released. And it finally got all released. And then I was like, well, I just don't have time, and everything else is going on. And obviously 5e as well. So, but of course you'll never be over to tactical combat. That's fine. No one plays dungeons like that. Most people have one combat encounter and can see that reflected on the basically single area maps on Reddit's area. Exactly. Yeah. The way self-confessed cynic Vin in chat here, when I was talking about some of the dungeons that I used to run for Pathfinder, I was talking about 30 room dungeons. That's level 1. And there used to be a rule of thumb, which was that if you took a sheet of graph paper and you designed a dungeon, right? 10-foot square dungeon, right? Not 5-foot square, 10-foot square dungeon, because the dungeon map was for exploration, not for battle maps. It was for exploration. Now, if they make dungeon maps at all, they're for battle maps. They're not for exploration. But the idea was that half a sheet of graph paper, okay? Imagine this half sheet of graph paper filled in with a bunch of, 30 by 30 rooms and 40 by 60 rooms and corridors and stuff like that. A half a sheet of graph paper was usually the sort of the modicum for a full session of play. So an entire dungeon level written on a piece of paper would probably take you 2 to 3 sessions of play. And the self-confessed cynic was like, that he's like, that would have taken my group a year or something, because the way that people play these games now is very different. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, by the way, but if you're stopping and, to storytell all the time, if you're talking in town with the merchant about, the weather, if you're playing in a combat system that takes an hour or 2 hours to get through a fight, yeah, it's going to take you months, to get through. And then people get really bored. Of course, also, too, if you play for months, then you're leveling up a lot, and then things become problems and blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Combat is picking an overly complicated lock to get to the other side. Yeah, Karma, that's pretty much the way I would describe it. Yeah. The nights spent by a nominated member of the group mapping out the route only described by the DM. We played like that for many years, and no one ever really seemed to complain. That being said, Trajan, while I do definitely appreciate the value of a good dungeon map and the value of a good for the DM and for the mapper, generally, I nowadays kind of prefer more point crawly dungeons. I'm less concerned with the minutia of the puzzle maze aspect of a dungeon, rather than, because like one of the things I always used to say is like, well, you can't do a point crawl because like one of the coolest things about a dungeon is like when the group is mapping and they map this room and then they map this room and they realize that there's an empty space between those two rooms and that might be a place where there's a secret door, and so then they start spending, or secret chamber, so they start spending time looking for secret doors because the map has sort of indicate. Totally valuable, totally valid, and I even used to make that argument myself. Now I just don't care as much. If I see one more inn with the load-bearing walls not lining up with the first floor. Months easy. Yeah, exactly. So, obviously a lot of people in many games, and by the way, not just D&D, but, when I played Root, when I talk about my Blades in the Dark games, a lot of people go, oh my God, Derek, like, how are your games so fast? And part of it is because I push the pacing and I push the agenda and I push the party to make decisions, and I will try to cut out uninteresting stuff. Ben Milton, Ben Milton made up an acronym that he called TUNIC, time until next important choice or something. And I try to minimize that, like let's get to something interesting. Let's get to a really interesting moment. Now an important choice doesn't necessarily have to be like a tactical one. It could be an important exploration choice. It could be an important social choice. Like, do you betray the party or not? I'm interested in knowing that. But let's get to it so we can find out what you decide to do. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be really interesting as we go into the new year because I'm going to be running not one, but two Torchbearer games for my patrons. And we're going to run, there are going to be two parties, and they're going to be competing against one another. And so I think it'll be kind of interesting. But it'll be interesting because I feel like this will be very, again, I've played the game before, but I've never run a campaign of it. And I'm really interested, and with this group of players, obviously it's new. So I'm really interested to see how this, it's almost like a test bed for some of my theories and some of my thoughts on how people react and respond to gaming. And I'm very curious. I need to really think about, because I want to do some player feedback forums, and I really want to make sure that I'm sort of not only playing the game and enjoying the game, and hopefully the players are having a great time too, all great, but that I'm using this opportunity to sort of do some social experiments, because I kind of want to understand like why this game ticked or didn't tick with certain people, and was there a frictional point, and why that friction occurred, and was that on me, was that on the system, was that on the players? It'll be really interesting. But I do apologize in advance because I know there's a lot of people who won't want to hear about Torchbearer. They're like, no, I want to hear about more feats from Pathfinder 2. I will say though, regarding the Patreon, tomorrow, and Vin, I don't know if you've signed up. I don't know when the last time you were on the thing. Vin, we're doing a $500 Amazon gift card giveaway. I don't know if you signed up for that. Oh, you just think it's funner to never spend my currency. Okay. Well, to be clear, this giveaway is specifically designed for people like you who just have all this currency and haven't used it for anything. And so it's like, let me at least give somebody $500. All right. Well, anyways, we're doing a $500 giveaway because Saturday, the 30th, is our 4-year anniversary. I might come online just for a little bit, just to say hi, just because it's our 4-year anniversary, representing 4 years since we published episode 1 of Rise of the Rune Lords, Burnt Offerings. Actually, the episode title was Sandpoint Welcomes You. But that was chapter 1, which was Burnt Offerings. But yeah, kind of maybe do some fun retrospective stuff and looking back and stuff. But we're really excited for that. And to give the giveaways, because I love taking the money that this community gives me and then figuring out ways to do prizes and give stuff away and all that other stuff. Let's see here. Tyler says, reflecting on my early years of GMing during college, I now cringe at my strict adherence to a consistent resolution of detail. Wasted so much game time, and was very taxing creatively. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, we all get better. That's why we play. It's why we read. It's why we learn. It's why we enjoy the conversations and discussions like this, right? To try to improve our GMing abilities. I'm not some uber GM that is above reproach. I think I get better every time I GM a campaign. I learn something that worked, something that didn't work. It took my party 4 hours and 10 rounds to kill Strahd in 5e, and sucked so much of the drama that was so engaging up until that point. Well, Sanjeev, I will say that, depending on the type of game and gamer that you have, a 4 hour, 10 to 15 round combat against the main boss of a whole adventure, could actually be very fulfilling, especially because there's a lot of stakes. There's a lot of things at stake. There's a lot of stakes and there's a lot of things at stake. To kill a vampire. But it's the combats that don't have any tension. It's the combats that don't have any real clear, resolution, meaning that I think are just not worth spending your time on. There's a deep cut to Quentin Tarantino's foot fetish. All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for me. I thought it was going to be a short stream, but we ended up going until 9:30, so good times. I look forward to hanging out with you all next month. I look forward to our 30th. I look forward to the 30th and our 4-year anniversary. And Bob and I have been chatting about some things that we want to do for the Patreon. And I myself I'm a little nervous. Bob has his ideas, and I've learned more to trust Bob, to go with Bob. So some of Bob's ideas I think are worth considering, and we'll see where they go with that. But I'm going to try maybe some new content stuff in the new year, and we'll see. We'll see what we can come up with. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, or you're having a great Thanksgiving, or if you're not in the United States, that you just had a great day. Anyways, I hope that you have a great weekend full of awesome gaming and a lot of fun stuff. And yeah, we'll check you next time on Knights of Last Call. Good night, everybody. Peace out.